Welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you news from the City Council, a special video from Shannon Grove, and today's KZGN Talking Points editorial.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. Here's what's on the agenda for tomorrow evening's City Council meeting. Under presentations, the Council will present Employee Service Awards to the employees who have reached milestones of 5 or more years of employment during the second quarter of 2015. The 15-year recipients are Officer Elizabeth Franco, Karen Harker, and Sergeant Ryan Maroney. 5-year awardees are Lauren Cope and Lorenzo Hernandez. On the consent calendar, the Council will receive and file the investment report for 4-month period ending April 30th, 2015 from Finance Director McQuiston. Government Code Section 53646 and the City's investment policy require that the Treasurer of the City of Ridgecrest submit a quarterly investment report to the City Council. The report shows the summary of investments for the 4-month period ending April 30th. The report shows where the City's money is invested, the value, yield, and interest accrued. A majority of the City's cash is invested in the Local Agency Investment Fund, which is a money market fund that is administered by the State Treasurer. It is a high-quality investment in terms of safety, liquidity, and yield, much of which are primary objectives of the City's investment policy. In February 2015, the City hired government portfolio advisors to invest the 2010 TAB Fund proceeds that are still unused. So far, they have invested $6.3 million. Next, the Council will consider adopting a resolution authorizing the application for and acceptance of the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control Grant Assistance Program. The California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control has awarded one-time grant funding to the City of Ridgecrest Police Department in the amount of $40,000. This grant is designated as a multi-agency grant covering the Eastern Sierras from California City to Bishop, California. This grant is to be administered by the Ridgecrest Police Department with a reimbursement to allied agencies through the City of Ridgecrest Finance Department, under pending agreements and MOUs. The grant goal is to implement a comprehensive ABC enforcement program with a strong emphasis on deterring minor juvenile access to alcohol by targeting problematic ABC licensed establishments, updating current ABC enforcement procedures with training to patrol personnel, conducting impact operations at licensed establishments within the jurisdiction of the Ridgecrest Police Department, California City Police Department, Bishop Police Department, and Inyo County Sheriff's Department, and increase communication and involvement with the community groups. The department will be conducting shoulder tap operations, minor decoy operations. They'll be issuing press releases regarding the grant and activities conducted under the grant to curb alcohol consumption at juvenile parties. They'll be training neighborhood law enforcement agencies in ABC enforcement procedures and operations. 2 officers will be sent to ABC training with specific emphasis on alcohol violations and enforcement. The grant period begins July 1st, 2015 and ends June 30th, 2016. The Police Department plans to use approximately 75% of the grant funds to fund overtime for sworn personnel to implement and conduct the enforcement programs and to purchase limited equipment to assist in the project with the City of Ridgecrest. The remaining grant funds would cover operations conducted in allied agency jurisdictions. Now we'll be right back with a great video from Assemblywoman Shannon Grove.
Hi, my name is Shannon Grove, and I'm a member of the California State Assembly. I represent the 34th Assembly District, which encompasses much of Kern County. It's an honor and a privilege to represent Kern County. Did you know that Kern County was the 2nd largest agricultural county in the entire nation? But right now, California is suffering from one of the worst droughts on record. Eventually, you'll see at the end of this video how this is going to affect you and your families and your kitchen table. Standing out here with John Gless in front of what you can see is dead, uprooted trees. So, John, tell me about your farm.
Well, we've been citrus farming for, I think we started in about 1960. That's what we do. We farm in Kern County and Riverside County.
So these trees that you have behind us, these are old trees?
Yes, they are. This particular area, we're affected by the drought in all the areas we farm, but here we had a limited amount of water. It wasn't enough, and we had to pick, you know, which grove we're going to let go.
If you were to get water tomorrow to start growing these trees back, how far away are we from that production?
If I knew I could get water, a steady source of water, at the best case scenario, 7 to 8 years before they'll ever be fruiting, you know, bearing fruit.
So it's not like you could get water and instantly start producing fruit again?
No, no. Once these groves are removed, they don't come back in a year. This area, I couldn't get all the water I needed, so I had to resort to what we did here.
Right.
But in some areas, I have the option. There's people that are auctioning off water, and we can buy it. But the cost, just the cost for an acre foot of water, just the cost of the water to grow 1 acre of citrus will exceed my total farming cost on a normal year.
A lot of people talk about water banking or underground storage. How come you just don't tap into, throw a straw in the underground storage?
The wells that we have right now are down probably 35% from last year, and they're dropping every week. It's going down, down. And that's the big if. Are our wells gonna hold up throughout the summer, or are they gonna go dry? And if they do, there's gonna be a lot more of this. We're trying to put in new wells right now in other areas. There's a waiting line. Right now I'm in a waiting, I've got one going in. I need more than one. The other ones, I'm in like a 6-month waiting list.
Have you ever in the history of your 3rd generation farming family had to do this?
No, we've never gone through anything like this.
You never have?
No. You know, and paid $1,250 an acre, or an acre foot for water.
I'm out here with Larry Starr at Starr Farms. He's a 3rd generation farmer grower on this property. So Larry, thanks for doing this interview.
No, thank you for coming out.
So as I look around standing here, it doesn't look like a very profitable orchard. It kind of looks like it's dying. Tell me why we're standing in this dying orchard.
Yeah, so these trees, we're having to just let go. I mean, there's probably 15 to 20 years left of life in these trees to, you know, produce income, to produce jobs, but we're going to have to let them go. And we've got about 1,000 acres that's in the same situation where we're just letting them.
They're just not getting water and they're just going to die.
They're going to die.
So now, drought isn't something that you're not familiar with. California has been through a series of droughts, similar to what we're going through now.
Yeah, but droughts are, you know, we say drought, and it's funny how back in the day a drought was, you know, you would see, you know, dry conditions and you would deal with it. But now you've got added conditions that are not, I don't think we can blame the weather for. I mean, today's drought is more politically driven, I think, than it is weather related.
An environmental protection law called the Endangered Species Act is forcing water from the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. These waters previously went to farmers and urban areas. Now this water is flushed into the San Francisco Bay to protect a 3-inch fish called the Delta smelt. This year alone, over 1.2 million acre-feet of water was flushed through the Delta in an effort to protect this endangered fish. That's enough water for 3 million households and enough water to irrigate 600,000 acres of farmland. Does that make any sense? Are these fish really that valuable? Should we always put fish over humans? So I have one more question to ask you. What civilized society destroys its own food source for a 3-inch fish?
Until the Endangered Species Act was really activated and introduced as, you know, as part of the parameters for water in the state, until that happened, we were fine. We got through all our droughts with no issues. In fact, they wanted to give water away, power was cheap, and now the Endangered Species Act has sort of come into the parameters. We see that we have water problems now, getting water through the system. We can't even there's plenty of water available. We just can't get it through the system because of regulatory issues.
What would 1.2 million acre-feet mean to California farmlands?
You can do, you know, hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland could be, you know, in production hiring people, you know, creating jobs.
How do you think poor water policy and what's going on in Sacramento and the federal government is going to affect food prices from here and into the future?
If you start drying up the valley, that's going to mean higher food costs. I mean, what's causing the price of food to go up is the lack of water in the valley. So what are you going to do? You're going to either import it from other countries. Is that safe? Do we want to import all our food from Chile? This is just a precursor to so many things of problems. And so you start cutting off the head of agriculture, water, and you say you're not going to, you know, you're not going to help fix the problem. What you're doing is creating a big, I think, mud hole for everybody just to die in. I think it's just a big pit that we all you just start sliding into.
Although this drought is severe, we need to keep things in perspective. California has a long history of droughts and farmers have learned to adapt. So what's making the effects of this drought extremely serious?
As Californians, we've been spoiled for decades with quality, reasonably priced foods that are available to us anytime we go to the supermarket. Our children are going to lose this blessing if water policy in California does not change. California's breadbasket that feeds this nation and this world will be destroyed.
So what should be done? Demand Congress change the Endangered Species Act so fresh drinking water isn't released into the ocean in a failed attempt to save fish populations. Pressure the governor and legislators to build additional water storage so that surplus from the wet years can be used to sustain California's breadbasket and the urban areas during the dry ones. And make your voices heard before it's too late.
Now it's time for the 47th KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Should low-income people pay lower fines for tickets and other violations than the rest of the people? Just to recap, yesterday KZGN did a news story as follows. Governor Brown has come up with a new proposal to reduce traffic fines and penalties for low-income people. He says this is based on the harsh lessons of the confrontation between citizens and the police. Governor Brown is proposing amnesty for poor people buried under the escalating costs of unpaid traffic fines. Underlying charges that the state has been exploiting low-income and minority residents caught in a spiraling accumulation of court costs that they can't pay. Governor Brown proposes to start an 18-month amnesty program in October so that drivers with lesser infractions could pay half of what they owe, while administrative fees for lingering offenses would be cut from $300 to $50. Officials note violators' problems become compounded with unpaid fines and penalties that lead to suspended licenses and registrations. So, let me get this straight. Under Brown's proposal, if you break the law for certain things, if you are low income, then you pay a lower penalty. Does this sound right to anyone? I'm sure for some of you, it probably sounds okay. If someone makes less, then maybe they should pay less. So how do we determine the levels? Would it be right to say a $300 fine for most of us should be $50 for low income? How do we determine what income level this lower rate kicks in at? Just for discussion, let's say it kicks in to all those already receiving public assistance. So a person making $25K per year gets his fine reduced from $300 to $50. But the guy making $25,001 per year has to pay the $300. Is that fair? Or do we have a sliding scale to determine fines? That sounds plausible, but how do we determine that scale? Will violators have to produce tax returns to show their income level? We all know that just showing a pay stub doesn't really show what the person has available for expenses. What if two people both made $25K per year, and one had almost no expenses because they live at home with their parents, and the next person lives on their own with lots of medical expenses? They are not equal in determining how low income they are they? What if they said provide your tax return so you can show your adjusted income to determine your ability to pay fines? So the guy making $25K per year with no deductions has an adjusted income of $15,000. And then compare that to the businessman that has $1 million per year business but has a huge loss for the year, sending his adjusted income to zero. This does happen, folks. Just think back to the Howard Buffett story during the last presidential campaign. He criticized the tax system because his secretary paid more taxes than he did as a multimillionaire. So will the guy with the $1 million business pay reduced fines? Because, after all, his actual available income to spend is less than the guy making $35,000 or $25,000 per year. You might say this is an extreme example. My point is, I wonder how they'll determine the poverty level to use this program. And then look at the actual reason for penalties to begin with. Aren't penalties meant to try and keep us from breaking the law? Does Brown really believe that someone that almost gets a slide of the penalty, that this will keep them from breaking the law? Then I have to ask, does Brown have the authority to lower the rates without the legislator approving this? I thought that only the legislative body can write laws. Or is this again another overstep of the governor's authority? Seems there's a lot of executive oversteps of authority lately. So all the low-income people that have pending fines now, they hear about this proposal for October. So do they just stop paying altogether and wait until amnesty? Sure, why not? This should not be an issue of justice for certain levels of people. Last I heard, we are all equal. Laws are meant to make us behave. Does anyone really think by reducing a fine that someone will have the same incentive to not break the law? If you break the law is applied to all of us equally. There should be no class of citizen that has the laws apply at a different level. What's next? Reduce jail terms for criminals based on their income level? So, if a low-income person can't pay their speeding ticket, they go to jail for 10 days. But if the next person is determined to not be low-income, they go to jail for 30 days. How about we take this to the next level? How about reduce jail terms and fines for burglars and armed robbers? After all, many of these people may be low-income people too. That's why they're robbing to begin with. They're just trying to raise their income level. So will we now reduce their jail time? May sound ridiculous to most of you, but rest assured, there are some out there that probably think that it would be a good thing to do. After all, look how much it costs to keep a person in jail. All the special consideration for lawbreakers, what about the victims? What about them? In conclusion, this again is socialism at its finest. This is just plain ridiculous. Remember the saying, don't break the law if you don't want to do the time. Laws apply to everyone equally. I'm Tom Whitnick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial, or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email in to info@kzgn.net. Stay tuned for weather and sports after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to Keith for the weather.
Thank you, Tom. The National Weather Service is forecasting a risk of severe thunderstorms across the northern plains from northwestern Minnesota across much of the Dakotas and Nebraska and into Wyoming and southern Montana. Large hail and damaging wind gusts. Meanwhile, a few strong thunderstorms are also possible across the southeast. Temperatures across the nation. Massachusetts, 48. Carolinas, 76. Florida's in the low 80s. Texas and Kansas tied at 84. North Dakota, 74. Colorado, 82. New Mexico, 82. Arizona, 96. Utah, 75. Montana, 67. Idaho, 68. Southern Oregon, 64. San Francisco, 61. And Los Angeles at 67. Now for our forecast here in the IWV. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 61. West-southwest wind, 10 to 15 miles per hour with wind gusts as high as 25. Wednesday will be sunny with a high near 93. Calm wind, 5 miles per hour. Wednesday night, mostly clear with a low around 60 degrees. Breezy with a south wind, 15 to 20 miles per hour. Thursday, sunny with a high near 90 degrees. Light south-southwest wind, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, partly cloudy with a low around 59. Southwest wind, 5 to 15 miles per hour with gusts as high as 20. And on Friday, a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms after 11 a.m., mostly sunny with a high near 85, calm wind, southeast around 5 miles per hour. And that is a look at your forecasts for the IWV. Have an excellent evening, and back to Tom with the rest of your KZGN news.
Thanks, Keith. Let's go to Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Tuesday afternoon to everybody. Let's start with Major League Baseball. The Angels win again. They've now won 4 games in a row. and they are hitting the ball extremely well. Luis Pujols, 2 more home runs last night. He now has 14 on the year. Mike Trout, also another home run. Those guys have just been tearing it up lately. The Angels beat Tampa 7-3. They still trail Houston by 4 games. The Astros came back last night. They were down. They score 4 in the 7th inning, and they go on to beat Baltimore 5-3. All right, the Dodgers win in Colorado 11-4. Clayton Kershaw got his 4th win of the year. Clayton Kershaw also helped himself by hitting 3 base hits, including a double for Clayton Kershaw. All right, Milwaukee also wins last night. They shut out St. Louis. Second time all year the Cardinals have been shut out. The Mets shut out San Diego 7-0, and Pittsburgh beats the Giants 4-3. The Giants now have come to earth. They trail the Dodgers by 2.5. All right, college baseball regionals yesterday. A lot of teams punched their ticket for the super regionals coming up this weekend. Florida State beats College of Charleston. Miami, who lost to Columbia 3-0, the first time all year they were shut out on Sunday. They come back and they demolish Columbia 20-3 yesterday in Coral Gables. All right, VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, they were a 4 seed. They beat Dallas Baptist, the 1 seed, 3-1, so their first trip ever to the Super Regionals. North Carolina State punched their ticket. They beat TCU at the Fort Worth Regional. And West Lafayette from Louisiana defeats Rice in the Houston Regional. All right, at the College Station Regional, probably the best series maybe of all time. It took 3 games, but finally Texas A&M defeats Cal. Those 2 teams had split games, each winning in extra innings, and last night Cal loses 3-1. So Texas A&M will move on to the Super Regionals. In the Champaign region, Illinois defeats Wright State. And the Nashville Regional, Vanderbilt ties a record for the biggest win ever in an NCAA playoff game. They beat Radford University of Virginia 21-0. Ouch. All right, in the NFL, Cam Newton very close to signing again with the Carolina Panthers. Get this, it would be a 6-year deal at $20 million a year. Not bad. All right, NBA, Cleveland and Golden State begin Thursday night, the championship series. Now, Golden State, 42 wins, 3 losses at home this year. Incredible. All right, softball, College World Series, Oklahoma City, Game 1, Florida 3, Michigan 2. Same 2 teams play tonight in OKC. All right, in the NBA, it's official that Fred Hoiberg will be announced today as the new coach of the Chicago Bulls. He told his Iowa State coaching staff and team yesterday that he's decided to make the move to the NBA. He will get $5 million a year. He will sign for 5 years. Okay, Elvin Gentry named the head coach of the Pelicans, New Orleans. He was at Golden State as an assistant last year under Steve Kerr, and he will stay with the team through the NBA playoffs. Scott Skiles got the head job with the Orlando Magic. Scott Skiles last coached with the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. And here's good news. University of Alabama Birmingham, who dropped football this past December because of pressure and everything else, they said, hey, we'll bring football back. We'll reinstate it in 2016. So that's good news. That would affect an awful lot of people had they gone through with demolishing that program, which, by the way, was fairly successful win-loss-wise. All right, that's your sports for a Tuesday afternoon. Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. All of us at KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We thank you for choosing us, KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only community TV station.